Ladies and gentlemen, from the very beginning, we are told stories of greatness, of resilience, of struggle and success. But often we forget that every one of those stories, no matter how extraordinary, started in a very ordinary place. A place that felt small, a place that felt overlooked, a place that maybe even felt like nothing. But here's the truth, asterisk nothing asterisk is where everything begins. When we look around today and see the leaders, the builders, the creators, the ones shaping the world, we tend to focus on where they are now. We rarely ask where they started. We don't see the late nights filled with doubt. We don't see the failures, the rejections, the moments they almost gave up. And yet, that's where the foundation was laid. That's where grit was built. That's where vision began to take shape. Each of you carries a story waiting to be written. A story that won't be defined by where you come from, but by what you choose to do with where you're going. It's not about having all the answers today. It's about being bold enough to ask the questions and brave enough to take the first step. Don't let fear of starting small hold you back. The biggest change always begins with the smallest decision, the choice to believe in something better. Maybe that means staying in school when it would be easier to drop out. Maybe it means standing up for someone who's been pushed down. Maybe it's just waking up tomorrow and choosing not to quit. You don't need to wait for permission to begin. You don't need to wait until everything is perfect. Because your story doesn't start once you've made it. It starts the moment you decide to move forward, even if no one's watching, even if no one believes just yet. You are capable of building something extraordinary from nothing. And when you do, you won't just transform your own life, you'll light the way for someone else to follow. So if you're wondering when it's your time, if you're waiting for a sign, this is it. Your story starts here, right now, and what you do next will be the first line in a story the world has never heard before. Make it count. Greatness often begins in ordinary or overlooked places, yet so many of us are conditioned to believe that success is reserved for those born into ideal circumstances or those who have resources from the start. We look at the finished product, the leaders, the innovators, the artists, and see only the polished outcome, but we rarely pause to consider where they started or the hurdles they faced along the way. The truth is, greatness rarely appears on a silver platter. It's crafted from the ground up, often in places where it feels like there's little to build on. When you're standing at the beginning of your journey, everything may seem uncertain. The path ahead may not be clear, and the odds might feel insurmountable. But the key is understanding that your potential is not determined by your starting point. It is shaped by your ability to see possibility where others see nothing. It's about having the vision to dream beyond the limits of your environment and believing in your capacity to create something new, something different. Think about the people who have had the greatest impact on the world. Many of them didn't start out with advantages or wealth. They started with a sense of purpose, a drive, and the willingness to act, even when the world around them seemed indifferent or unwelcoming. What they had wasn't a head start, it was a mindset. The mindset that the small, seemingly insignificant steps they took were building the foundation for something much larger. That's how greatness works. It doesn't require grand beginnings. It doesn't require a flawless plan. It only requires a willingness to start, even when the odds are stacked against you. No one expects you to get it perfect right away. The best journeys are filled with moments where you don't know the next step or where you're unsure of the destination. It's in those moments of uncertainty, though, that the real work begins. The work of trusting in yourself and taking the next step, no matter how small. Every great story is one of evolution, of learning from mistakes and adjusting course. So don't be discouraged if you're not starting with all the resources you wish you had. Greatness doesn't require a perfect environment, just a willingness to start, to learn, and to grow. Where you begin doesn't define where you'll end. It's the decisions you make along the way that truly matter. Struggles and failures are part of the journey, and they are not obstacles to avoid, but essential experiences that shape who we become. It's easy to look at successful people and assume that their journey was smooth or free of setbacks. We tend to romanticize their accomplishments and forget the hard roads they traveled, the countless times they stumbled, and the moments they faced rejection and doubt. The reality is that no one's path to success is linear or without struggle. The truth is, struggles are not just inevitable, they are necessary. They challenge us, test our limits, and force us to adapt. Without these struggles, we wouldn't know the strength of our resilience or the depth of our determination. It's in the face of adversity that we discover what we are truly capable of. Failure, in particular, is often seen as something to fear or avoid, but it is, in fact, one of the most powerful teachers we will ever encounter. Each failure is an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to come back stronger. Consider the many famous entrepreneurs, artists, or leaders who faced repeated failures before achieving their success. For example, Thomas Edison, whose name is synonymous with innovation, famously failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb. He didn't see those failures as setbacks, but as steps forward in the process of discovery. Each failure brought him closer to success, and his perseverance ultimately transformed the world. Similarly, many great athletes and performers have experienced crushing defeats or moments when it seemed like they wouldn't make it. But it was their willingness to keep going, to learn from their mistakes, and to refine their craft in the face of setbacks that led them to greatness. These struggles don't define them negatively. They define them as individuals who are unafraid to keep pushing forward, even when it feels like the world is telling them to stop. The key to navigating failure is perspective. Instead of viewing failure as a final destination, we need to see it as a stepping stone, an opportunity to reassess, to reframe, and to rebuild. Every time we fail, we are given a chance to get up again with more knowledge and experience than before. The best part, this process doesn't just apply to monumental achievements. It applies to everyday moments of growth, whether it's learning a new skill, tackling a challenging project, or pursuing personal goals. Each time you face a setback, you are building resilience, you are sharpening your character, and you are preparing for the success that comes not from perfection, but from persistence. Struggles and failures teach us humility, patience, and grit. They help us recognize that the road to anything meaningful is never easy, but it's worth every difficult step. And as long as we keep moving forward, even in the face of challenges, we can always turn those setbacks into the foundation of our ultimate success. Your story is defined by your choices, not your circumstances. So often, we find ourselves focusing on the factors we can't control, where we were born, the family we grew up in, the challenges we face in life. We tell ourselves that our circumstances define us, that the cards we've been dealt limit our potential. But the reality is, our circumstances are only one part of the equation. The true measure of our future lies not in where we come from, but in the decisions we make as we move forward. Every single one of us has the power to choose. We may not always control the environment we're in or the challenges that come our way, but we always have the power to decide how we respond. Whether we see a setback as the end of our journey or as an opportunity to learn and grow depends entirely on us. This is where personal agency comes into play. Your choices, the way you approach difficulties, the people you decide to associate with, the attitude you bring to each situation, ultimately determine who you become. The power of choice is something that many overlook because it feels like our circumstances are too powerful to overcome. But if we take a closer look at those who have risen above the challenges of their past, we see a common thread. They understood that their decisions would shape their destiny. Think about the countless people who have come from humble beginnings and gone on to achieve remarkable things. Whether they grew up in poverty, faced discrimination, or dealt with personal hardships, what set them apart was not their circumstances but their unwavering belief that their future was something they could create. For example, some of the most successful entrepreneurs in the world started with very little. They weren't born into wealth, and many didn't have access to elite education or social networks. But they chose to take risks. They chose to fail forward, to take each setback as a lesson rather than a defeat. They didn't let their situation define what they could achieve. Instead, they defined their future by the actions they took, the paths they decided to walk down, and the decisions that moved them closer to their goals. The truth is, we all have choices to make every day. Some choices are small: what time to wake up, what to eat, whether to take a break or keep pushing through the work. Others are larger: choosing a career path, pursuing a new passion, or deciding to take a chance on something unknown. Each of these choices adds up and creates the trajectory of our lives. Even when things seem out of our control, we still have the power to decide how we respond. We must remember that our circumstances may shape who we are, but they do not have to limit who we can become. The person you are today doesn't have to be the person you will always be. With every decision, every new challenge you choose to face, and every opportunity you decide to seize, you are shaping the story of your life. The story is yours to tell. It is your decisions that make it meaningful, that push it toward success, and that ultimately define who you become, not where you started. Small decisions can lead to big changes, and often it's the seemingly insignificant choices that set the course for our future. We tend to think that change happens in grand, monumental moments, the kind that are life-altering or appear to be dramatic. However, real transformation often starts quietly in the everyday choices we make. These small decisions, when compounded over time, have the power to create shifts in our lives that we might never have imagined. One of the most profound realizations we can come to is understanding that each decision, no matter how minor it seems at the moment, is a building block in the larger picture of our lives. Whether it's choosing to wake up early, spending a little extra time studying, deciding to have an uncomfortable conversation, or even something as simple as choosing to be kind when you're frustrated, these moments shape the trajectory of who we are becoming. It's easy to dismiss these small moments. We think that the big breakthroughs will come from huge opportunities or life-changing decisions, but often those breakthroughs are the result of many small, consistent actions that accumulate over time. For example, an athlete may not achieve greatness with one perfect performance. Instead, it's the hours of practice, the countless drills, the commitment to improving even when no one is watching, that lead to success. A writer doesn't become an author overnight. It's the daily commitment to writing, the decision to keep going after each rejection, and the choice to improve with every word. The compound effect of these small decisions is remarkable. It's like planting a seed and nurturing it daily. At first, you don't see much progress, but over time, as you continue to care for it, the plant begins to grow. One day, you realize that your small, consistent actions have led to something significant. This is how habits are formed and how major successes unfold. It's not always about making the perfect decision in a single moment. It's about making a series of good choices, one after another, that add up to something larger than you could have imagined. Even in times of failure, these small decisions matter. If you fail but choose to get up and try again, if you decide to learn from your mistakes, or if you choose to see failure as a stepping stone instead of an end point, you're still making progress. Each of those choices builds a foundation of resilience and determination. One decision, such as deciding to not give up after a setback, can have an enormous ripple effect in your life. The beauty of small decisions is that they are within your control. They don't require grand gestures or extraordinary circumstances. They simply require awareness and a commitment to take action, no matter how small it may seem in the moment. And over time, as these decisions accumulate, they create a pattern, a direction, and a reality that leads you to places you may never have thought possible. So, the next time you face a choice, whether it's small or seemingly insignificant, remember that the decision you make now could be the first step toward the big change you're hoping for. It's the accumulation of these small choices that shapes your future, turning ordinary moments into extraordinary outcomes. Every step you take, no matter how small, is progress, and that progress, compounded over time, leads to big, lasting change. You don't need permission to start. Too often, we find ourselves waiting for a sign, for the perfect moment, or for external validation before we begin something meaningful. We wait for someone to tell us it's okay, for things to align just right, or for everything to fall into place before taking that first step. But the truth is, you don't need anyone's permission to start. You don't need to wait until you feel completely ready, and you certainly don't need the world's approval to take the first step on your journey. We live in a world that constantly tells us to be cautious, to play it safe, to wait for the right time. But the right time often never comes. It's easy to get caught in the trap of perfectionism, thinking that we need to have it all figured out before we make a move. The reality is that no one ever has everything figured out at the start. Success doesn't come from having all the answers right away. It comes from the willingness to act, even when the path ahead is unclear, and the courage to move forward without knowing exactly where it will lead. Think about the countless people who achieved great things, whether in business, art, or innovation, who didn't wait for permission. They didn't wait for a mentor to tell them they were ready or for a perfect opportunity to appear. They decided to take action in spite of uncertainty. They decided that the process of starting, of learning, and of growing through trial and error was more important than waiting for an ideal moment. And because they chose to begin, they were able to create momentum that eventually propelled them forward into success. The start of something new often feels like stepping into the unknown, and it's natural to feel hesitation or doubt. But waiting for certainty can hold us back for years. Perfection will never come if you wait for it. All you will find is more reasons to delay. The most important step you can take is the one that breaks the cycle of waiting. By choosing to start, you give yourself the opportunity to learn, to make mistakes, and to grow. And in the process, you gain clarity, experience, and the confidence that only comes through action. It's also important to remember that the fear of judgment often holds us back. We may worry that others will criticize us for not being good enough or for not knowing everything we need to know. But the truth is, no one starts out perfect. Everyone who has ever achieved anything of value has started from a place of uncertainty, vulnerability, and imperfection. Those who succeeded didn't wait until they had everything figured out. They embraced the journey, trusted in their ability to learn along the way, and gave themselves permission to fail forward. The beauty of starting is that it opens the door to possibility. It's in the act of beginning that you discover what you're truly capable of, and it's in the early stages that you learn the most. When you wait, you lose valuable time. But when you start, even without all the answers, you begin to create your own path. You begin to build your own momentum and shape your own future. So, don't wait for permission. Don't wait for the perfect circumstances or for someone else to tell you it's time. The only approval you need is your own. You have everything inside you to begin, right here and right now. The first step may be small, but it's the one that sets everything else in motion. Trust yourself. Take that step and know that you are more than capable of handling whatever comes next. The time to start is now. Your journey can inspire others. This is one of the most powerful aspects of taking action, making decisions, and pursuing your goals. While your story is uniquely yours, the way you navigate challenges and achieve success has the potential to impact and uplift those around you in ways you might not even realize. By stepping forward and committing to your journey, you show others what's possible, what they too are capable of accomplishing. You become a living testament to the fact that change is possible, that growth is achievable, and that success is within reach for anyone willing to put in the work. Think about the people who have inspired you. Often, their greatness didn't come from perfect circumstances or from some magical moment of luck. It came from their willingness to face adversity, to keep pushing even when the odds were stacked against them. And when you see someone rise, especially when they've started with nothing, it lights a fire within you. You start to believe that you, too, can overcome obstacles, that your dreams are worth pursuing, and that the seemingly impossible is possible. The truth is, your success isn't just about your own personal achievement. It's about how you uplift others along the way. It's about showing them that their journey matters, that their voice has value, and that they too can create something extraordinary. You may not always be aware of who is watching, who is inspired by your actions, or who is encouraged by your courage. But by taking bold steps, even in the face of fear, you are giving others permission to do the same. This ripple effect extends far beyond you. It's in the small, everyday acts of courage, the moments when you choose not to give up, when you keep learning, when you try again after failure, that create a culture of perseverance and determination. Each person you inspire can go on to inspire others, and together we create a movement of people who believe in their own potential, regardless of where they start. So, as you continue on your journey, remember that your actions matter far more than you may realize. You are not just building your own life. You are building a legacy that will inspire future generations to pursue their dreams, to break free from the limitations they once thought defined them, and to take bold steps toward their own success. The road ahead may not always be easy, and there will be moments when it feels like giving up is the easier path, but keep going. Every step you take, every challenge you overcome, and every choice you make brings you closer to becoming the person you are meant to be. And in doing so, you are creating a story that can ignite the spark in someone else, a story that can show them that anything is possible. Your story starts here, right now. It's in the choices you make today, the risks you take tomorrow, and the courage you show every single day. You don't need to wait for permission, and you don't need to wait for the perfect moment. Your journey matters, and it will inspire others to begin their own. So take that first step. Keep moving forward. And know that your story will not only shape your future, but it will also light the way for others to follow.